Dream a beautiful dream or you will be drowned. And what that means is that if you don't hold a vision for yourself, that life can become a walk to, then you will end up spending your life doing what people perceive you to do. So hold your own vision, walk to that vision, and allow life to unfold by you holding the goals in front of you of where you want to be.
And at the point, then he made mention or make reference to Ifa theology in how when a child is brought into the world, that at the 8th day, the child is brought before the elder, where they ask the question, where they try to understand what are this child brought to this world. That is in the Yoruba tradition, the Ifa theology he explained. We can see now that the community and the new child that is brought to this world or that came to this world are being united now for a common mission. You are not left to figure out everything on your own. You are part of the community, because if you fail, a part of the community fail too. So it is the responsibility of the community to help you figure out your mission, because the mission is important.
Why are we running around conforming to every single thing that has to be done because that's the way it was done? Just because it was done doesn't mean it was done right. We are coming into a new age, a new level of management where knowledge is power, because that's what the internet has brought. I am a grandmother elder. I am an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur. I am a doctor, and I love the work that I do. And I love lifting people up. I love being able to make an impact on the world. I love being able to motivate, inspire, and I love business. So you put that combination of the spiritual work that I love to do and working with people also, that first and foremost, and you put that together with us being able to work within this world for all of the things that pull from us in the dynamics of navigating through the world. And I love to navigate this world.
I love that. Thank you so much, dear Enola. This is really very important. I think this is about our third or fourth episode, and I love every moment of it, all the time that we have been here. So thank you so much for the time that you dedicate to respond to some of our questions today. And of course, today we are going to be talking about transformational coaching for business. And even why do businesses even need a coach? In fact, that is one of the questions I'm going to ask you later on. The fact is that we cannot do it alone. That is just the bitter pill that we need to take, that we cannot do it alone. We need help. So I think that is important to be clarified also. Now, give us a kind of a background of your coaching program so that people can sort of get enthusiastic and to sort of get to know you more.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I am a grandmother elder and I am a energy practitioner. And so right off the bat, I had to learn how to navigate and acquire those skills and work with those skills. So when I started working with coaching, it is not just a matter of, oh, I need a group of people and I'm just going to gather them in and I'm going to start coaching them. No, there was a journey that I went through. And in going through that journey, the experiences that I acquired shaped me. Having to do my own work shaped me. Having to navigate my own trials and tribulations shaped the work that I was about to pull together. So my program is not just a program. I created a methodology that is based on 7 principles. And those 7 principles are the foundation of my life. And so through this self-mastery methodology, I like to call it Empowered to Succeed, EAS. Through that program that I put together based on the experiences, based on the 7 principles, I am able to help people reestablish a stronger foundation to stand on so that they can traverse life and traverse business and traverse their daily work and practices. And you don't have to go outside of yourself in order to do it. Everything you need, you already possess. It is knowing where to begin and knowing where to begin on the inner reflection, and then understanding where to draw from the most powerful pieces that you already possess. Many of us always look outside of ourselves through the coaching programs that we have. That's not where you're supposed to be looking. You need to look inside yourself, build a stronger and better self, and understand and traverse that better self inwardly like nobody else understands. And once you master that, then there's no reason that you can't traverse this world no matter what it throws at you.
Thank you so much for that. That is really very beautiful. Yeah, it reminds me of a conversation I was having a couple of days ago. I was interviewing this professor in Texas. We're talking about African spirituality, and he was saying something to the effect that in a regular regimentized religion, I want to call it like that, we are often told to sell our power away to institutions, to other people who we then tell us at a point that, okay, now we are not qualified. And now, of course, talking about African spirituality now, he said, well, from the basis of African spirituality, looking at religion, you were already qualified from the day that you were born. Everything you need is already part of it. You don't need to prove anything. You were already part of it. And that is power. That is giving power to the people, telling them that you are qualified. You don't need to do any other thing else other than to live it now. Live to what you are qualified for.
He is absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Because who deemed someone to say whether you're certified enough or not to be able to engage in something? Your experiences is what brings the bear on the table. We were born with everything that we need. We are powerful beings, and it is actually our circumstances in society that engages the rules, and the rules shape your thinking, and the shaping of your thinking is what you believe you're qualified for or not. That's your limited belief system, right? If you engaged in the fact that the rule is there are no rules to limit you, then you come from a very powerful perspective. Who created these rules? And why should I be framed by them to say, this is as far as I can expand, this is as far as I can go? That's our limited beliefs. And again, that's not outside of yourself, is it? That's what my principles.
Anyway, later I'll ask you to discuss some of those principles because that would be really very important. And of course, for those who find value in it, they should, of course, look for a way to contact you. And of course, you will also share that one in the course of this conversation. Now, this is a kind of a curiosity that I have in that. How do you describe transformational coaching? What does it mean?
So, to me, transformational coaching is that fact that you can bring a framework to an individual and guide them, not tell them what to do, but guide them along their own journey. And instead of saying, I'm going to change your life, because I don't believe in that. I teach in transformational coaching that when we make a different decision, then we get a different outcome. And if you make enough different decisions, then you get enough of the different outcomes that you can shift your life. When you are able to recognize your own habits, your own patterns, and the things that keep you locked in to the type of life that you have, and you make a different decision, then that's when you shift your life. That's what's transformational. It's opening up your expanse of thinking, your expanse of how you view the world, your expanse of how you approach your issues, your problems, your tribulations, your challenges. And so, again, that's not outside of yourself. That's how you think. That's the patterns that you've created. That's how you view the world. That's everything that's within you. So again, I really believe that transformational coaching is a guideline to help people start and initiate their own journey and to guide them, but to allow them to traverse that journey.
The journey. Okay, now you meet somebody, you are going to sort of redirect to focus on his or herself, because that is what I understand you do now. You don't like just changing people. You take people into a process so that they can change themselves. That is interesting. But where do you start from in this journey? Because this individual that you are saying already have it's a full package. I seem to use that often sometimes to people that you don't need to look outside. Look at yourself. When you were born, you are a complete package. Everything you need to succeed and fail is part of you. But how do you start that journey?
Well, you know what? Think about it business terms, and I'll create the analogy of, don't we have to take inventory in order to understand what stock that we hold when we're working in business, correct? Well, what inventory do you have of self? That's where you begin. How do I think? How do I process? What do I hold important in my life? How has my cultural upbringing shaped me? I mean, these are all particular things about ourselves that we have to take stock of. That's where you begin. It's like it's akin to looking in the mirror and loving what you see, right? You see yourself, but can you ask the tough question? How does one lie to themselves? What is it that I am wanting everybody else to see, but I don't want to see for myself? Because only we can tell the truth to ourselves. And many times, many of us will look in the mirror and we will want to project what everybody wants to see, what we think other people should see. But to take that hard look at at yourself and basically say, yes, I am an angry person. Yes, I can be really bitter. Yes, I am an insecure person. Yes, I am a jealous person. Yes, I am an adventurous person and I can't sit still, and I like to live my life like a nomad. Yes, I have issues with dealing with authority and control, and I don't want to be in a setting that exercises authority and control all the time. Being honest with yourself, those vulnerabilities that we like to hide and keep secret, like letting it all come front and forward to say, this is who I am. You start there. That's where you start. If you think about it, anyone looking for coaching doesn't like what they see in the first place. They want something to shift or change, whether they don't like it in just one facet of their lives. Oh, I need more business coaching, or oh, I need more personal development, or I need more whatever the case may be. There's something that's saying I'm not satisfied. And then the key here is that one something that you're not satisfied with, that you're seeking and that you're longing for, really the key to Pandora's box that says, let me look at the whole thing. Let me look at the whole. Because we love to look at pieces of ourselves. Oh, this part is okay, but this part I need work on. And the bottom line is we have to look at the totality of self, no matter what we're working on.
All right. Before we started to record just now, you made mention of setting the foundation. And I think that is very important since we are looking at coaching or transformational coaching for businesses. I think that is something that somebody might need to really pay attention to, because no matter how beautiful a house is now, or no matter how solid it might be on the surface or in the upper part of it, if the foundation is not solid, that house is going to collapse at a point. So tell me about the foundation. How should people face that within the business environment, and of course within the line of transformational coaching?
Okay, so first of all, people need to establish a strong foundation, just like you said. So let me make it akin to where I am. I'm sitting here in Africa right now. Okay. And the trend now is that we need to build more entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are everything. We have to have more entrepreneurs. We have more money for entrepreneurs. So let's create all these entrepreneurial programs. Okay, fine. We create entrepreneurial programs. And they come to Africa and they say, okay, we're going to give you 22,000 people to train. We're going to train 22,000 of your people. And we're going to throw money at it, and we're going to train them and everything else, right? And let's say 80% of them fail. Well, why are they failing? Why can't I build an entrepreneur? Well, you know what? You're going to a place where men and women have a certain role, and they've been cultivated to have a certain role. And a woman has been cultivated to trained to have children and have babies and be the core of the household. She has not been trained to necessarily understand about finances. She has not been trained to experience the power of her voice. She has not been trained to understand that, you know, she can have equal footing with the people around her, but that her place is X. So here you are, let's say that 50% of these women break through that barrier, but that's the cultivation of their heritage. And then they go into an entrepreneurial program, and they're then expected to, okay, use the power of your voice. Okay, release that judgment and just go ahead and go after X, Y, and Z. Well, their whole lives, they've been cultivated not to be seen, to be done what they've been told. Okay. And the cultural upbringing has a significant bearance on what they do. They've been told to be frugal with the money. If they've been received money, they've been allocated the money little by little by little, never knew what it is to take a risk, never knew what it was to invest, never knew they broke through the barrier because they have an education, but never was taught how to execute agency, how to execute what we term as empowerment. Yes, you're empowered individuals, but what does that mean? So then we cultivate this woman and she goes up to bear, and then she's expected to handle money and take risks and invest. And she's expected to create multiple streams of income, and she's expected to stand up for herself and stand up for that which she demands to be able to pave the way for herself. And she has to break through that foundation of everything that was opposite, everything that was opposite. So how does that person execute agency? How does that person allow themselves to be empowered when they've never felt the realm of empowerment? They've never been able to exercise it. They don't understand the power of commanding or executing their voice to say, this will happen. We're missing a gap. There is a personal development gap. Now, I took the extreme, which is here in Africa, but really this traverses across the world, at least 3/4 of the world. And even for the women in the West, what happens is that there are certain expectations the parents have: perfection, competitiveness. You will do this. This is how I see you, so fulfill it. So we have this other aspect, which is a different kind of situation where you're people pleasing, or you're not feeling good enough, or you feel like you have to work 150% to get the same results as your counter peers. And again, stepping back, how do I execute agency? And in those cases, how do I stop giving away my power? How do I stop feeling inadequate? How do I stop feeling like I'm not good enough and feeling like I have to work 150%? So I'm putting in 80 hours where my typical counterpart might be putting in the regular 40. All these things are things that we need to address. We need to address them on a personal development basis, and we skip over it. We jump from, I'm in school, I have an education, I am smart enough to, okay, now I'm being thrown in a program. So some of our greatest leaders are panicking before a speech because they've never addressed some of the issues that they have, afraid to speak. But you would never know it, the facade is there. But inside, they're panicking. Some of our greatest financial people are afraid to talk about money and get a churn in their stomach when they talk about money because they've never really been able to execute having money, receiving money. They understand the manipulation of money. They understand how to work with the system with money. But to seriously have that agency in that education of experiencing it, working with it, and inside they're going, oh my God, this is a multi-million-dollar deal, and can I trust myself? They've never been afforded the opportunity to trust themselves. They've always just kind of been thrown into it, and they go, dear God, please I'll get through this, I'll get through it. They get through one hump, they get through another hump, but they still haven't addressed the sheer panic or the sheer gap within self that gives them that solid foundation to say, I got this and I can handle it and I can do it. We all are survivors of something. We break through and we make it, but we need to take a step back and build that foundation and make it rock solid and address what we feel inadequate about, address what our issues are. No one's perfect. Everyone has issues that they need to address. Everyone has something that they need to change the viewpoint on, not give away their power, not feel their own insecurity or an inadequacy. And their limited beliefs are actually what are in their way. So that's where I work.
Thank you so much for that. That is very empowering. It's really very empowering. It reminds me what a guest said to me one time. Of course, looking at what you also lay out as part of the limiting belief, the challenges. Not like you said, nobody is perfect. It is true, nobody is perfect. But maybe sometime our imperfection are actually part of the game. That now you'll see that you only have one eyes. That is part of the game too. You see, you cannot run very fast. Instead of looking at it as a limitation, it can actually be seen also as an opportunity for you. Because everybody was not supposed to run very fast. Because if everybody runs very fast, we will miss the point. We need somebody who doesn't run very fast so that they can focus on those little details. So the guest was saying that when the gods send the blind man to the battle, the blindness is accounted for, which means you are supposed to win as the blind men do. So that wherever you are, whatever is your defect or your deficiency in a natural sense of it, it can actually become also your advantage. Whichever way you appear, take it. If we leverage that, it can be useful for us. But of course, we can also turn around to say, okay, but you see, I am blind with one eye. I cannot do anything. Can't you see I only have one hand? I cannot do anything. Can't you see I can't talk very fast like other people? So that is the problem for me. Can't you see I can't walk very fast? But like I say, maybe it's time for us to really reflect to see how do we define what we are supposed to do in the sea of the possibility around us. Because I really do believe that even though we might have one eyes or have one hand or don't talk very fast or maybe stammer or maybe talk too much or maybe don't talk too much or maybe very intelligent or maybe not so intelligent, we still have a sea of possibility around us that we can never explore in our entire lifetime. But how do we manage to focus on one, putting all our energy on that one, so that we can really be good on that one? Because we cannot be good in everything. How do we do that?
So I love that question because, first of all, you refer to it as a game. And what I like to do is I like to transcend the game, right? We all think that we have to go in and we have to play the game. But the beauty of this is that the world is large enough such that we don't necessarily have to play a game at all. What we can do is we can learn to define and create our own framework. And when we decide that we're going to define and create our own framework, we can create our own framework to our advantage. So that the person who doesn't speak fast will attract that which the people that don't mind the fact that he doesn't speak fast to him by creating his own framework. We don't necessarily have to enter into the game of what has already been created as a structure, but we can create our own. For example, I had a really, really dear friend, and I was coaching her, and she was a chef, and she hated the way that the chefs treated one another. They're belittling, they're demeaning, they step on one to make the other look good. And here she is trying to coexist in this already predefined paradigm, because this is how they treat each other. This is how they work with one another. This is how they engage one another. And this is how you have to climb up the ladder. by belittling, by demeaning, by arrogance, by all of those particulars. And what she ended up doing in doing the transformational type coaching is that she created her own framework. She created her own restaurant, and she created the rules of engagement in that restaurant. And she created the rules of engagement between the chefs as they were engaging. And so throwing that older paradigm out of you're going to belittle, you're going to demean, you're going to show you're better than the other, and this is my territory and this is my turf, to a more family-based, family-oriented demeanor. Why are we running around conforming to every single thing that has to be done because that's the way it was done? Just because it was done doesn't mean it was done right. We are coming into a new age, a new level of management where knowledge is power, because that's what the internet has brought. And with understanding that knowledge is power, and understanding that the basis of what anything is created is based on that knowledge, or the knowledge base, or seeking knowledge, then we have the power to create our own. And so that person that has one eye, or that person has one hand, can create everything for one-handed people, can create everything for one-eyed people. There's no reason why we have to conform. And there's no reason why we can't create the next level of management, the next level of engagement, the way we see it is. And that's the power of executing your empowerment. That's the power of getting all of the one-handed, one-eyed people together if you don't have enough resources to say, I want this, here's my dream. Would you like to share and engage in my dream? Let's put our power together because we're stronger together. And so that one individual that has a dream, that's the visionary, can engage the others that don't have their dream, but they are the people who are able to execute that vision. And we have to start thinking differently, because the rule is I do not have to engage in the game.
So I'm sort of wondering that for you to get A, you need to do B that correspond to A. If you just sleep in the house, nothing is going to happen. So if you just, okay, maybe you have a lot of energy, you are just throwing your stove into the water with your energy, the result is going to be very thin compared to maybe when you concentrate on something that you are doing. So I don't know if it's even making sense at all.
It does make sense. And you know, I'm going to kind of pull it apart, okay? Because first of all, what is getting rich, right? Are you talking about money and wealth? Or are you talking about rich in abundance, rich in relationship, rich in networking, rich in, there's many things that we can be rich in, right? And, you know, this world loves to flash and dangle like a dangling carrot materialism. You know, this is what rich looks like. Rich looks like I have more cars, more houses, more this, more that, and the other. But let me tell you something, there's a lot of wealthy people out there that are very lonely, that aren't rich in the relationship, that aren't rich in other things. And richness is about balance. Richness is about being able to be surrounded by people you love, people you want to engage, people that may be like-minded, people that have resources. It's a plethora of different things. So the first thing I would ask you is, what does rich mean for you? The second thing that I would also ask is that, you know, sometimes what happens is that we get faulted with, you know, in order to gain resources and to gain money, I got to go after it this way. But remember, that one point of contact, that one person who's touting, this is how I got rich, that worked for him. Just because it worked for him doesn't mean it will work for you, right? This is how we make money. We see what somebody else wants and we covet it. We covet it to the point where we pay money and we're like, I want this too, I want this too, I want this too. But really what we should be doing, Empower, Achieve, Succeed, is that we step back and we do the homework, we do the research, and we glean the information of how it happened for somebody else. Well, I'm not that person. I don't live that person's life. I'm not encountering the people that particular person encountered. And I'm not growing up with that kind of background that particular person has. And I don't know what the divine flow, in other words, what God has blessed them with because of their circumstances, their heritage, and their ancestry. So how am I going to glean what that person has? That's a false way of looking at things. what I would do is I would do my homework. I would say, this is the industry I want to work in. This is how it's been done in the past. This is how they were able to attain wealth, good, bad, or indifferent. And now I have that as a background and a factual place to start to embed and embark on my own journey. And my journey may not look like that. And my journey may not allow that X, Y, and Z takes place and I come across the same particular circumstance, but when I do it, I fail. And when they did it, they didn't fail. That's because I'm copying somebody else's work. We all have the ability to do our homework, do the work, research the area you want, know all about it, understand the trends, understand what engages people, understand what doesn't engage people. Many of us don't want to do the work. And because we don't want to do the work, we run and we pay and we say, I want to do it like you did it. And then we waste the money because you're not that person. So answer to my question is, do your work, do the research, understand the trends, engage that as a knowledge base, you understand the facts. And as you make decisions, make them based on your own experiences, your own understanding, your own knowledge, and don't be afraid to fail. We're afraid to fail. We think that we can just go get the knowledge and this is the way it's going to happen. And then we fall down, it's like, oh, it didn't happen. Forget it, forget it, forget it. So I like to say this, there are many roads to one. So if you and I hold the same vision, it doesn't mean that we have to take the same road and the same path and the same means to get there. It means that we both can be well aware, but we're going to glean our experiences, our network, our contact, our way of doing business. And it doesn't mean that we both can't arrive. First of all, it's about the attitude. Visioning yourself and knowing that you are going to be successful, no longer how long it takes you to traverse life to get to that vision. If you have the attitude of knowing that you can hold the vision and make life a walk to that vision, then why would you ever think that you're going to fail, no matter how much?
All right, that was really very brilliant. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. That we never need to copy any other person. We can actually develop our own rules. I so much love that. That is highly, highly valuable. That is so valuable. All right, now, Enolia, you see, there is a man I usually give us an example from my place. His name is Ojogun. Okay, it's to call Ojogun because he was doing the word of goldsmithing. In that he was the guy who does the trap. He was the one who does they prepare the knife, he prepare the cutlass. Sometimes he also prepare the gun and the rest of that. But because he was doing this for a very long time, he was what you can really call an expert in his trade. And of course, he would then teach his knowledge to other people too who want to learn, because there were other people who were coming there to learn from him or how to do goldsmithing. Now, this is the point I'm trying to drive at, in that sometimes we need each other to be able to learn how to figure out things. Now, tell me, you are a coach now, you are a master, because you are teaching other people how to figure out their own plan. But you, what have you learned from? Who have taught you? Where did you learn from?
So where I learned from is that I went through my own journey. And I remember being in corporate and having this longing in my heart that basically said that I didn't like what I was doing. I was territorial, I was arrogant, and I was longing to be and to grow, to be in the positions of people that I didn't even like. I didn't like them. I didn't like our leadership. I didn't like what they looked like. I didn't like how they manipulated lives. I didn't like how they treated people. So why am I in an organization, in a role where I'm growing to be like people I don't even like? We asked ourselves, and that's that. My parents told me to go this route, so I kind of picked something. I went this route. I made this decision when I was 21 years old, and I didn't know any better. So here I am later in years, and I'm going, why am I here? What am I doing here? I don't like these people. So I had this longing in my heart And my longing in the heart wasn't like I want to leave corporate or anything like that. But the longing in my heart is I long to know my own heritage. And so I know that I'm African, and I know that I had a percentage of Native American within me. And at the time when I was looking for an African elder, I couldn't find one. So I found my first Native elder. And in meeting this first Native elder, she was the first of many elders that into my life that taught me. And I remember the arrogance that I had and the mistakes and the entitlement that I did with her. And she showed me compassionate leadership. She showed me a different way to respond. And I recognized that because I knew how I would have been treated if I was back in corporate. She showed me another way of life, that everything wasn't viewed through the eyes of judgment. Everything wasn't viewed through the eyes of, oh, you made this mistake, I'm going to throw it back in your face 2, 3, 4 times in order for you to recognize that this is not how it's done here. She showed me how to live in balance and like myself. She showed me how to look in the mirror and like what I see. She was the beginning. Then the next grandmother elder who engaged me showed me more. And then the next grandfather elder that I engaged showed me more. So I had a string of grandmother elders, grandfather elders who showed me a different way of life. The indigenous understood and knew this other way of life, which they had been living their whole lives. And I needed to step out of this way of thinking, how I had been brought up culturally, step out of it and literally go to a different dimension, a different way, and a different viewpoint of living to correct my life because I wasn't happy. And because when you acknowledge that you're not happy, when you down to the core of your being, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. You would throw the money out the window if you could glean happiness, because sometimes with all of the money and having an imbalance in your life, imbalance, meaning that, oh, there's plenty of money, there's plenty of fake people around me, there's plenty of people who tell me exactly what I want to hear, but they're miserable too. Or they've bought so much into the facade that they've redefined what love and happiness is. And that's why you see them blowing up like a balloon, unhappy eating, unhappy shopping, plenty of materialistic stuff all around them. But the loneliness is palpable. The misery is palpable. And I'm not saying you can't have those things. Please don't take it that way. But there is a balance in life of happiness. There is a balance of life of loving what you see. There's a balance of life of accepting the totality of self and having friends and having positive relationships around you, and not just people who want you for what they can get from you or who give away their power to words. And because you have a particular title, you could never find a true friend in the midst of it because everybody wants something from you. How do you shift that kind of life? And so the grandmother elders, the grandfather elders showed me a different way because I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And when I started working at this and changing my attitude and changing the way that I viewed life and changing the way of changing what I prioritized in life, loving my family and seeing my boys a different way and seeing my family a different way and changing the priority that the role that I played in my family, changing that priority, because I always saw myself as secondary to everything else versus equal footing to everything else. I remember having my first family meeting and saying, we need to be able to figure out how all of us can get things done instead of me playing the martyr and suffering and saying, I can't get my stuff done, but everybody else can. Because that's what mothers are supposed to do. Who made that rule? Why can't we all walk side by side and we all pitch in and we lift each other up and all work together so that everyone is satisfied? So sometimes we have to unlearn the things that we do. And I learned from the indigenous grandmothers and grandfathers. We sit in circle. No one's above you, no one's below you. No one's in front of you, no one's behind you. But we sit in circle equal. And we value each one equally. And we care about each one and each other equally. And that we can live in harmony with family, we can live in harmony and balance with nature. We don't have to always take in a sense of entitlement. We don't have to take in a sense of hierarchy always. But that we can learn from our children. We can learn from our elders. We can learn if we open our hearts. It's a different perspective.
Thank you so much for that. There is a lot of value there. There is a lot of value there. You see, what you described now is a true picture of what people usually say when they say that when an elder dies, a library is burned down. It literally means that elder is carrying knowledge, is carrying information that is going to be helpful to not only him, but to all of us. Because it stands between us and the world that we do not know yet. Because, of course, it's closer to that. And it means now that we need to value our elder. We need to value the knowledge. Because I can see the emphasis you are putting in the word elder there. Elder mother, elder father, mother elder or father elder. It really shows how much importance they have. You see, you didn't say how much money they have. You see, all these are very important for us, that the riches that we are talking about is not just the number of dollars you have in your account.
Yes.
How do you influence people? What you are doing, how much importance does it place on the people? A couple of days ago, I was interviewing a vice chancellor in a London university. We were talking about the importance of decolonizing African education. Of course, it's South Africa. That is why we're talking about that, of course.
Yes.
In that it is important that we understand the importance of who we are within the context of where we live. It is important that we understand what we are learning in school and how that can play a role in where we are going in this world. Because it is not neutral. It is important that we understand this. And at the point, then he made reference to Ifa theology in how when a child is brought into the world, that at the 8th day, the child is brought before the elder, where they ask the question, where they try to understand what are this child brought to this world. That is in the Yoruba tradition, the Ifa theology he explained. Now, some of my questions I was putting before him is that, now we can see now that the community and the new child that is brought to this world or that came to this world are being united now for a common mission. You are not left to figure out everything on your own. You are part of the community, because if you fail, a part of the community fail too. So it is the responsibility of the community to help you figure out your mission, because the mission is important. And all what you have explained now also is in line with that, because now you pass through this journey and you are in a perfect position to also help other people to pass through that. The information that you learn help you to shape your life, help you to redefine, help you to see better the package that you came to this world with. And you are helping other people to do the same. That is valuable. Thank you so much for that. But I want to ask you, how happy are you now? How fulfilled are you now doing what you are doing today, 2024?
So I'm very happy, extremely happy. And I've been very, very blessed. I've taken the journey that I went on and I've captured it in a book, Enolia, Finding My Sovereign Voice from My Grandmother Elder. It's available on Amazon along with 3 other books. The 7 Principles of Self-Mastery is another one of my books. So if people want to explore further about how I learned what I learned and what my journey looked like, I welcome them to engage on Amazon and capture the book. But the second piece of this is as follows, that through those grandmother elders and grandfather elders that I met, they were able to share their stories, share their teachings, And the first and foremost is that you really, really have to be willing to listen. To listen, not go, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. I don't care if you know the information already. Listen to a different perspective. Listen. And then hear what's being said. Don't listen with judgment, but hear what's being said. And that was the number one thing that I learned, because the elders weren't one perspective. They weren't just Native American elders. I learned from the indigenous of Northern Canada. I learned from the indigenous across America. I learned from the indigenous in New Zealand, in South America, in Africa. And each brought a different perspective and emphasized what was important to them. And then I was able to cultivate this and create a program independent of culture, asking the right questions and pointing at the things that I was taught to learn from within for myself. And so as we're able to share this information and as we're able to work with this information, I created a program and a methodology by which can be learned and by which can be taught. I've structured it. And this is the richness of all elders across the world. It's a richness of taking the best of the indigenous across the world and saying, this is how they helped me in my life. Right now, I am in the process of proposing my program to certain governments in Africa to teach across the continent. So I'm in a beautiful place. I am in a very, very grateful place. So the government of Angola, and I'm meeting with the Ministry of Women. I'm also working with certain places across America where access to the program can be had. So I'm planting the seeds. I'm going to correct that. I planted the seeds. And now it's the patience of watering and watching them grow and watching them grow. I get to work with people across the world. I've worked with people in Nepal. I've worked with people in India. I've worked with people in Europe. I've worked with people in South America. I've worked with people in Australia, across the world, who embrace what I'm teaching. And then they, in turn, create the ripple effect. So if anything were to happen, I can smile about what seeds I've planted in life and how I've helped or engaged people. Because isn't that what we live for, is to leave something beautiful, to leave a legacy that can continue on, that assists in making us stronger together? I'm thinking about when you talked about the professor that you interviewed with decolonization and how he stressed the importance. One of the things that we need to get back to is our own language. Language was the first thing that was taken away from us to make it divided. Because when you don't have language, then you don't communicate. Language, heritage, these things are like huge gaps in our hearts. They're like wounds. And if you were born in generations and you no longer experience that, then, to have your own language is to be powerful. To be powerful. And I look at people who have multiple languages and they have their mother tongue and then they have the particular language they learn in the particular language. Communication is everything. Everything. How do you belittle someone? You take away their capability of understanding. You take away their language. That's where it starts. Then you strip their culture, where they can't associate that strength and that courageousness based on that culture that they have. Then you introduce new terms to them and just bring them in a navigation of life away from what they know that gave them the solid foundation, that made them strong. And we need to have this back. We need this. This is part of who we are, and it's in our DNA. Whether you recognize what those parts are and what that longing is or not, it's there. It's down to the mitochondria of who we are. We talk about ancestry and the power of ancestry. And this is why if your great grandmother was an herbalist and your grandmother was an herbalist, you have that herbalism knowledge base in you down to your DNA. Well, you know what? It's not just about that. It's our culture. It's who we are. It's our language. It's that which defines who we are. And that stripped away, that's how our power was taken. So all of these pieces are building blocks that we put back. You know, they're all building blocks. And we, as individuals, you know, like I have been studying language. I've been studying language. I've been studying the power of communications from a linguist point of view. And I never understood how important language was and how important our culture was until I embarked and started doing the work. We need to look within our hearts and find that longing and satisfy the trauma and heal it. We need to satisfy the longing of knowledge and wisdom, because 9 out of 10, that's what we were powerful. And that's what was passed down to us from our ancestry. You have a power of speaking and engaging people, Obehi. You know, this is your strength. And when we look at the lineage that you came from, I'm sure that your ancestry had storytellers in them. Had to have, because that's what you find engaging and most powerful in your life. And here you are telling it in a modern day way. But history will 9 out of 10 tell you that your people were powerful orators. They had to have been, because look at you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You see, my father actually was an entertainer. My father died when I was very young. I didn't really have the time to be able to grow up with him. Some of the things I say regret today. It's actually one of the things I am really passionate about the interview that I do. You know, I am making sure that other children, when they grow up, they look up to the internet. They will also see people, their father, who are just talking. I don't even care. What I often say, if somebody have given me a record of my father just talking, I don't even care what he was saying. I just want to see him talking. But I don't have any record. We don't have any record of it anywhere. Whereas my father was an entertainer, he was doing this drum, he was singing basically, but not the popular musician, but in our village, he was known for this. Yeah, you are right. In our tradition, we have this coming. It is not by accident. And also, it has to do also with the spirit of the mission, that sometimes we need to understand that there is a value for what we are doing. There is a reason that we are doing what we are doing that is serving a purpose. Because if we know this, we will do it with extra joy. It's not about the money. It's the fulfillment internally. That, you know, when people die, we usually will say, rest in peace. And I say, the best way this can happen is if you have done what you are supposed to do, then you can actually say, rest in peace. That is a good thing to say when you have done what you are supposed to do. Therefore, what are you supposed to do? Know it and do it. Many people, everybody might not approve it, but it's okay. But know why you are doing what you are doing. I can really see my father's signature in what I am doing, because he was doing this, but doing it differently. So you are 100% right about that. All right. Now, you talk of the 7 principle. I don't know if you want to touch anything about that a little bit. Please remind people how they can learn more on that. Okay, I know you did say something that they could get that on Amazon, which is, of course, it cannot be too much repeating that again. So touch on that a little bit and tell people how to learn more about those 7 principles.
I gleaned the 7 principles of self-mastery from my elders, and each one of them represents a lesson learned that I learned from a particular Indigenous elder. And so in the 7 principles of self-mastery, and I also term that my Empower, Achieve, Succeed methodology, we talk about the power of your words in depth at a deep, deep, deep level. we talk about how to release fear and redefining what fear actually is. And, many of us will term fear is as being afraid of something, but I redefine it. I redefine it. And then I give you that analogy of how I define it. And then you make up your own mind whether you subscribe to that definition or not. And then we explore it and we go deep into it. I talk about judgment does not define me because we are people that love to judge everything and everybody. And we judge the situation, we judge how we look at things, we judge everything. So, one of the things we do is we give our power away to judgment. Well, how do you stop giving away your power? Right? Then we talk about the fact that we have a limited belief system, and that limited belief system, has basically cultivated us to who we are based on how we grew up, who we engaged, what our parents were like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, what is it that is in your belief system that holds you back? And the other piece of this would be then forgiveness. Forgiveness is freedom. I'll just leave it at that. Forgiveness is freedom. And then we then embark on where I hold my power. And then we stand in our power. I am powerful. And when I talk about power, I'm not talking about power over people and over things, but how to stand in your truth and your power, and how to navigate through life in a powerful way without having to feel like you have to demean, belittle, or disrupt somebody else in order to step on, in order to feel powerful. No, that's not what being powerful is. Being powerful is about standing in your truth. Being powerful is about going right when everybody tells you to go left. So I am powerful.
Now you have learned with different, you have learned from different elders, both in Native America, in Africa, in Canada. But I'm curious, of these different people, these different sources of knowledge that you have tapped into, uh, is that something that you find sort of unify or common among all of them that you can share with us?
I would say yes. I would say that at the core being of each and every one is a mutual respect, a mutual love, and a mutual understanding that we are all energy. We are all energy having a human existence. And in that human existence tells a different story across the board, right? But we are all energy. We are all having a human life and existence with rules of engagement and cultivation. We all have love. There is a love that is common among all, and a love and respect for nature, a love and respect for relationship, a love and respect for those who have come before us and those who will come after us. And I am grateful to be a culmination of all of them. I don't say that I am one thing. I think that I am a culmination of all of them. And for me to talk at this level and to engage at this level is to be the pebble thrown in the water and hopefully causing a ripple effect that basically says, look at your fellow person and see the best in them and be that beacon of light.
That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Enola. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and this sharing. All right. Could you please tell people how to find you, those who want to learn more about you?
If you want to learn more about me or learn more about the programs that I represent, you can go to my website, which is www.enolia, my first name, Enolia.live, Live. I am on all of the social medias. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. I hold my podcast, The Infinite Way Enolia. So you can check me out there also if you want to hear more of the engagement and work. And I'm also on I also have my YouTube site, which is Enolia Energy. And that way you can see a plethora of my work versus just the podcast. So all of those things, and I can be sought out at info@enolia.live and learn about Empower Achieve Succeed on my website, my podcasts, my writings, because I write. I also produce an article. I produce a magazine, a couple of different magazines in conjunction with my partner, Pillar of Light with Christina Cunha, and then my magazine, Expressions of Humanity. I have my Expressions of Humanity nonprofit organization also at expresshumanity.org. So there is a plethora of things that I am engaged in, and I'd love for you to seek me.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. We can see the energy flowing around you. That is really beautiful. You are just flowering. What the flower need to do to celebrate nature, it just be flower. It just flower, just flourish. That's it. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Thanks
And
to
thank
you.
you for having me here. And I appreciate you. And I love the work that you do. So blessings to you, my brother. And may you continue to prosper, flower, and create that ripple effect across the world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So, what would be your final take here to conclude the conversation? We'll be talking about the role of transformative coaching in business. Please conclude it in your own way.
Dream a beautiful dream, or you will be drowned. And what that means is that if you don't hold a vision for yourself, that life can become a walk to, then you will end up spending your life doing what people perceive you to do. So hold your own vision, walk to that vision, and allow life to unfold by you holding the goals in front of you of where you want to be. See yourself already successful and be and continue to access that dream.
Thank you so much. That is beautiful. That is a key message that I need to go home. I appreciate you, sister. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. Take care.